You notice it immediately. The way conversations halt when you approach, how people's expressions change, becoming guarded, almost defensive. Their body language shifts subtly. A step backward, crossed arms, averted gazes. You haven't said anything provocative. You haven't done anything wrong. Yet somehow, your mere presence seems to unsettle them in ways you can't quite understand. Perhaps you've been labeled as intimidating or too serious more times than you care to count. Maybe friends tell you that you think too much or that you should lighten up. But what if these reactions aren't really about you being too much? What if instead you're touching something much deeper, something that the renowned psychologist Carl Jung spent decades exploring? Jung discovered that certain individuals possess what he called a shadow magnetism, an unconscious energy that forces others to confront the parts of themselves they'd rather keep hidden. This isn't about being aggressive or domineering. It's about carrying a psychological presence that acts like a mirror, reflecting back truths that make people profoundly uncomfortable. Your energy doesn't just fill a room, it transforms it. And for those living behind carefully constructed masks, that transformation feels like a threat, because you're not just present, you're authentically present. And authenticity, Jung believed, is one of the most revolutionary forces in human psychology. This phenomenon occurs because most people exist in what Jung called collective unconsciousness, a shared psychological space where everyone agrees to maintain certain illusions about themselves and society. But when someone steps outside this collective agreement, when they embody genuine self-awareness and emotional honesty, they become a living contradiction to the status quo. Today, we'll explore the 13 unmistakable signs that your psychological energy disturbs others. Not because you're flawed, but because you're awake in a world that prefers to sleep. These signs reveal that you've touched something Jung considered sacred: the integration of your shadow self, the parts of your personality that society taught you to reject. Understanding these signs isn't about feeling superior or different. It's about recognizing the profound psychological dynamics at play when authentic presence meets unconscious resistance. It's about understanding why your journey toward wholeness can feel so isolating, and why that isolation might actually be a sign that you're on the right path. Jung believed that the most important work any human could do was what he called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are rather than who others expect you to be. But this process comes with a cost. The more integrated you become, the more your energy challenges others to do the same work. And most people, frankly, aren't ready for that challenge. So let's dive into these 13 signs, not as a way to judge others, but as a way to understand the profound psychological forces that shape our interactions and relationships. Sign number 1, your silence speaks louder than words. You've mastered the art of meaningful silence. When others fill every moment with chatter, nervous laughter, or mindless commentary, you remain comfortably quiet, but your silence isn't empty. It's pregnant with awareness, observation, and depth. And people feel it. Jung wrote extensively about what he called active silence, a state of being where one's presence communicates more than words ever could. When you embody this kind of silence, you're not just quiet. You're listening with your entire being. You're absorbing the energy of the room, reading between the lines, sensing what isn't being said. This unnerves people because most social interactions rely on surface-level noise to avoid deeper truths. Your silence strips away these comfortable distractions and creates space for authenticity to emerge. Suddenly, people become hyper-aware of their own words, their own motivations, their own hidden agendas. They might accuse you of being judgmental or aloof, but the truth is simpler. Your silence holds up a mirror to their internal noise, and they don't like what they see reflected back. Your quiet presence asks without words, "What are you really trying to say? What are you hiding from yourself?" Sign number 2, you ask questions that cut to the core. While others engage in pleasantries and surface-level exchanges, you find yourself asking the questions that matter, not to be difficult or confrontational, but because shallow interactions feel like a waste of precious life energy. You want to understand what makes people tick, what drives their choices, what fears keep them awake at night. Jung believed that the right question at the right moment could crack open years of psychological defenses. Your questions aren't random. They emerge from a deep, intuitive understanding of human nature. You sense where someone is hiding from themselves, and your questions gently probe those hidden spaces. This makes people uncomfortable because they've spent years building walls around their vulnerabilities. Your questions don't attack these walls. They simply point out that the walls exist. Why do you think you chose that career? What would happen if you stopped trying to please everyone? When did you first learn to hide your anger? These aren't casual dinner party questions. They're invitations to self-discovery. And for people who prefer to keep their inner lives safely locked away, such invitations feel like invasions. Sign number 3, your emotional honesty is unsettling. You've never learned to play the game of emotional hide-and-seek that most adults master. When you feel something, it shows, not in dramatic, attention-seeking ways, but in authentic, unavoidable ways. Your face reveals your thoughts. Your energy shifts with your emotions. You can't fake enthusiasm, pretend to be happy when you're sad, or hide your disappointment behind a forced smile. Jung called this emotional transparency, the inability to separate one's inner experience from outer expression. While this might seem like a weakness in a world that values emotional control, Jung saw it as a sign of psychological integration. You haven't split yourself into a public self and a private self. You exist as one unified being. This terrifies people who have spent decades perfecting their emotional masks. Your authenticity highlights their inauthenticity. Your willingness to feel deeply exposes their emotional numbness. Your refusal to pretend challenges their entire approach to relationships and social interaction. They might call you too emotional or oversensitive, but what they really mean is, your emotional honesty makes me aware of my emotional dishonesty, and I don't know how to handle that awareness. Sign number 4, you attract secrets like a magnet. There's something about your energy that makes people want to confess. Strangers tell you things they've never told their closest friends. Acquaintances share their deepest fears and hidden shames. Even children seem drawn to reveal their most private thoughts to you. Jung identified certain individuals as natural containers, people whose psychological makeup allows them to safely hold others' emotional truths. Your aura radiates acceptance, non-judgment, and genuine curiosity about the human experience. You don't gossip, betray confidences, or use people's vulnerabilities against them. But this gift comes with a shadow side. While people feel safe dumping their emotional baggage on you, they rarely offer the same container for your struggles. You become the therapist, the confessor, the emotional trash can, but rarely the person who gets to be authentically vulnerable in return. This creates a peculiar loneliness. You're surrounded by intimacy, yet starving for genuine connection. People know your surface, but few ever ask about your depths. Sign number 5, your presence disrupts group dynamics. You walk into a room and something shifts. The energy changes. Conversations that were flowing freely suddenly become stilted. People who were laughing loudly grow quieter. The group dynamic reorganizes itself around your presence, often in ways that make everyone slightly uncomfortable. This isn't because you're demanding attention or trying to dominate. It's because your energy operates on a different frequency than most people's. Jung wrote about certain individuals who carry what he called field disturbance, a psychological presence that disrupts established social patterns simply by existing. You don't play the games that most social interactions require. You don't laugh at jokes that aren't funny, agree with opinions you don't share, or pretend to be someone you're not. Your authenticity creates ripples in the social fabric, forcing others to either rise to meet your level of genuineness or retreat into their protective personas. Most choose retreat. They label you as intense or difficult, rather than examining why your presence challenges their comfort zones. Remember, you're not too much. You're simply awake in a world that often prefers to sleep. And sometimes being awake is the most revolutionary act of all.